Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Roll call?
Mr. Quintero.
Aye.
Mr. Hernandez.
Aye.
Mr. Montague.
Aye.
Mr. Crouch.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is governing board comments. Ms. Quintero.
I would like to say congratulations to the wrestlers at Sunnyside for 5 of them winning states championships.
Again.
Again, again, which is good. Yay. And wishing good luck to the 2 teams that are playing tonight, Sunnyside at Sunnyside for Cienega, and Desert View at Desert View, playing Independence.
Independent.
Yeah, so I think good luck to both of those teams.
Mr. Amiel.
Ditto to what Ms. Quintero just mentioned, but I would like to also add, how well the students are doing, not only on the field, but cutting the mustard in the classroom. Otherwise, they wouldn't be playing tonight.
That's right.
And we could be in the news having kids play that are not eligible. I want to thank the kids for doing their part as well. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Hernandez.
I don't have any comments.
I'd just like to say something about our kids. Last week I was at Key to Employment at the U of A, and we were well represented by Sunnyside and Desert View students at the event. It was great to see them there. They make me proud every time I see them. And then we saw some Desert View JROTC students at Rodeo Park doing cleanup on Saturday. Last night we had the Reading Under the Stars event at Apollo. Again, a lot of students from the district. I had a surprise. There was something I didn't know about our district, and I feel like I should have. I didn't know that we had a middle school JROTC program at Apollo. I was blown away. So anyway, that was my surprise for the evening.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, President Crouch, members of the governing board, members of the audience. I'd like to start by recognizing our Desert View students who are attending the SolidWorks conference in Texas. So Desert View Precision Manufacturing instructor Cesar Gutierrez accompanied 48 of his students in the Precision Manufacturing program to the annual SolidWorks World Conference in Texas this week. Students will have the opportunity to meet face-to-face with engineers, industry leaders, press, and partners while sharing their passion for engineering, innovation, and all things SolidWorks. While at the conference, students will have an opportunity to take their certification test and return to Tucson with their CSWA certificate, a passport into industry jobs. So that'd be wonderful. We also have our Love of Reading Week kicks off with Reading Under the Stars, guest reader appearances. Tucson Mayor Jonathan Rothschild, governing board members, district leaders, high school students, and community volunteers are making guest appearances at schools in the Sunnyside district this week as we kick off Love of Reading. I had opportunity to go to Gallego Primary and Gallego Intermediate today. Read 2 wonderful books. One that actually spoke of a situation with a superintendent going in the classroom, and it was just ironic. I'm just sitting here reading one of the chapters of the book. It's called The Unteachables. You got to check out that book. We also had Sunnyside. Of course, the duel in the district may be happening. Of course, if both teams win tonight, then they face each other, unfortunately, as they move into the state quarterfinals there. So we're hoping they don't, if they both meet each other, they won't have to go to Phoenix to go play, which is kind of where it's probably scheduled at this point. So hopefully if they do face each other, we'll be here in the Tucson so we can have a good audience there as well, to have our own duel in the desert for soccer. Again, there's our wrestling champions who actually brought back their 32nd title win out of the last 40 years. So that's a pretty good run. I think it's, I want to congratulate Coach Leon and his coaching staff. Of course, the students who did just a wonderful job, great group of students he has this year. They won by the widest margin ever. I believe it was a 114-point margin of victory from the second place school. So they did a wonderful job, and so it's going to continue the legacy that we have with wrestling, and really appreciate what Coach Leon does also with academics, really pushing our students kind of do something beyond wrestling as well, and has proven that as our coach. So thanks, Coach Leon.
And we go down to
Yeah, we have one Penn State guy who's actually Roman's doing really well. He's competing at a high level, and you're talking Ivy League there. We also have Desert View High School students participate in Recharge Conference at Arizona State University. So here we have Desert View Native American students participating in professional and student panels centered around 5 learning communities at the Recharge Conference at Arizona State University. The conference incorporates elements from STEM, arts, design, performance, business, leadership, native history and languages, and public social services. Ashley Lopez, a junior at Desert View and a member at the Onaotham Nation, said, "I've learned a lot from other people's experiences, hearing them talk about how they dealt with things like meeting with new people and being away from home." Sponsored by Access ASU, the Office of American Indian Initiatives, the College Readiness Program has served thousands of students since inception 8 years ago. So very happy with the work Arizona State is doing with our Native students. They tend to do a really good job, and so we have to make sure University of Arizona ups their game with our supporting our Native American students. Come on, Wildcats. And we have Sunnyside Goes Solar on February 13th. That's tomorrow. Sunnyside will live up to its name as it holds, that's a pretty good pun here. Just cut that. As it holds a solar ribbon cutting celebration on Wednesday, February 13th, 2019 at Drexel Elementary from 4 to 5 p.m. Sunnyside will bring 5 of its 25 solar parking lot stage structures. Drexel, Craycroft, Lawford, District Central Office, and Los Ranchitos Annex. Representatives from TEP and other industry partners will be in attendance. There'll be light refreshments we serve, and admission is free. So we'll have to have some security, make sure you're there we'll have a big crowd to turn the lights on. So I appreciate that turn the switch. That concludes our superintendent's report, Mr. Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Next, we have recognition. So with the board and Mr. Holmes joining me in front of the dais.
Okay. So we're just going to recognize our recipient, Alan Tadeo Ballesteros. And Ariel.
No, it's right word. No, but audio's not.
Okay. The Sunnyside Unified School District Governing Board would like to acknowledge and recognize your efforts in representing the Sunnyside community with pride through your participation in the Best Buddies program. Okay. So Kate Street, Barbara McDonald, Kelly Strickler, Wendy Guzman, Eric Estrada Grijalva.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on. Okay, so the Sunnyside Unified School District Governing Board would like to acknowledge and recognize your efforts in promoting better outcomes for our students, families, and community through your participation in the Best Buddies and Parallel Learning Program. Thank you.
I can talk loud. I can talk loud.
Okay.
I wanted to say a couple of things about why Tadeo is being recognized also. So Tadeo has participated in Best Buddies since last year when he was a freshman at Sunnyside High School. And he started through our Library Buddies class, and then he quickly joined Best Buddies. And in 2018, 2019, this year, he strongly advocated for himself to be mainstream. He started in life skills classes. He really wanted to join marching band. So, so he went, we got him on a bus. Dr. Williams was very helpful with getting him transportation, and he got the bus, and he started that, and that changed his whole schedule around. So then he was mainstreamed into all gen ed classes, and he's, it's been a big change for him, but he loves it. That's why he won the Spirit of Courage Award for Best Buddies Arizona this year, was because of his advocacy for himself and the marching band. And then Dr. Williams also put his name forward for the Center for Exceptional Children's I Can Do It Award, which he also won and will be receiving on March 1st. So he's had a lot of awards this year. And he's we love his family. Thank you.
Thank all of you.
Oh, hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
So should we
This is.
Yeah, like, which one's wrong?
That's awesome. Full of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best part. Graduation. Graduations.
And graduation, absolutely. And we don't have any call the audience cards tonight. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'm making a motion that we accept the consent agenda. As
Second.
submitted.
Roll call?
Ms. Quintero.
Aye.
Ms. Hernandez.
I.
Mr. Jaramillo.
Aye.
Mr. Crouch.
Aye, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is general functions, and we have the Best Buddies program, parallel learning. Pam Benton and Dr. Williams.
I'm a clone, Pam Benton. I think she had to step away. Good evening, President Crouch, board members, and superintendent. Just in case she sneaks up behind me.
Yes, she
I
did.
just want to take a real quick second. You've already met the Sunnyside team and Barbara and Kate, and I just have to say, really, these two women are visionaries. For me, it's been so powerful this last year, beginning to meet with them and learning much more about how they've expanded Best Buddies and learning parallel learners. A while back, you invited me to talk, and I talked about the continuum of special ed and how we serve students with disabilities. And the one thing that we know for sure is that inclusion is truly where we see the greatest gains. Students benefit from inclusion academically, socially, emotional, and just the overall experience, not only for them, but also for their peers. And so the work that they've done over at, oops, sorry. Oh, thank you. The work that they've been doing and how they've expanded this program has been tremendous. I have to add one quick little funny note, because I went to visit Tadeo. I hadn't met him, but I had received these emails, and he was sharing how he was in band, but we had a conflict with his schedule and the timing of when he needed to be at school. So I said, I'll get back on, we'll figure out something, and I'll get back to you on it and stuff. So of course, we'd been working on it, but, things didn't work out quite as quickly. A few days go by. It's Tadeo again, asking, had I gotten anything? He's still waiting because he's trying to figure out how to get to band early in the morning. So after some really pushing and some creative thinking, we did find a way to get that transportation going for him and stuff. So it's been pretty exciting ever since. So without further ado, I am really honored and privileged that Kate and Barbara are going to be presenting to you tonight in more detail about the program. And really, this is an opportunity that we can capitalize on, perhaps at the middle school and the elementary. So I'm kind of hoping that they will be doing that work with me and the rest of the Sunnyside team as well.
Thank you. We're going to start, this is a little three-parter because we have Best Buddies, which is bled into Library Buddies and then turned into Parallel Learning. And so there's 3 programs that create inclusion. Like you met our team already because we all got awards. We didn't expect that. Thank you. And so Kelly's going to talk about Best Buddies because she's the one who started it at Sunnyside.
Good evening. So I was approached by a gentleman that did an internship with our previous principal back in 2012 and asked if we would want to start a Best Buddies group. And at the time, I had no idea what it was. I was like, but sure, because it was inclusion, and I was like, that was all I needed to hear. And as a special ed teacher, that's spoke greatly to me. So we started in 2012, and it just kind of was slow at first. I didn't really know how to run a club, so it was very slow to get going. But a few years ago, I asked for Kate's help. She's always been a great advocate for my self-contained class that I was teaching at the time. She always got them material and things to read and access to curriculum that I didn't have access to. And she gave me a greater experience in the school and my students that opportunity too. So I asked her if she would help me and she said sure. And then it just kind of, yes, I needed help to start it the next year. So that's kind of how we became this team. And how it all started. So the mission of Best Buddies is to create one-to-one friendships between a student with an intellectual disability or a developmental disability and as general ed student. Sorry, I was making sure this slide was on the right page. And it's about fostering that relationship in hopes to create a more cohesive campus and create true friendships. It's statistically proven that our special needs students and students that have intellectual disabilities don't have the same amount of friendships or as in depth because they're limited with some of their communication and access. So that's Best Buddies' purpose. So it's an international organization. And the high school and middle school, and I think they have started elementary school levels of Best Buddies just recently. And then it proceeds into college. U of A has a chapter. And then after college, they have a work program. So it's a huge spectrum. I think they have some living programs too, independent living programs. It's been around for 30 years. Currently we're the only high school chapter in Tucson, and U of A is the only other chapter. So it's been, it's kind of small here in Tucson.
I think there are about 40 in Phoenix.
Yes.
To give you an idea, 40 chapters.
40 chapters in Phoenix, yeah. So that is basically the fundamentals of Best Buddies and how we got started at Sunnyside. And it's just been, and the groundwork for this whole idea.
I can do that part.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
So participating in Best Buddies has been a major influence in our work to create a more inclusive school environment. When we see the kids together, it's just, natural and magical, and we just know that it's the right thing, and it's benefiting all of the students. One of us has attended the leadership conference in Indiana for the last 3 years. So that's just this eye-opening, awe-inspiring experience. There are about 3,000 people there, both individuals with and without disabilities that are all part of the club. And they do a lot of leadership development, and they teach students how to give speeches, and so most of the speeches given at the leadership conference are given by people with disabilities, and they're really teaching them how to take on an advocacy for themselves. So we love it, and we started a Library Buddies program around the same time because we wanted a more inclusive in-school environment, and this is an after-school club. And so by doing that, basically Library Buddies is just an extension of our school club. We have, Miss McDonald has a class of freshman repeat English students, so they failed freshman English the first year, and they're taking it again the second year. And they work out of the library, and they have a traditional English class for the 4 days a week, but then the one block day, they work with our students with special needs. And so we create these programs where they do sports together, and they play board games together, and just all sorts of social activities. That's something that started with just the autism classroom, and then it expanded. So that's something that we can do every week, and that there are a lot of students who can't participate after school, so this gives them a way. So we just wanted to read you a couple of quotes from the students because we asked them to reflect about it. So who's got number one?
So
This is Eric.
As my students paired up with the life skills students, and through a generous donation, we wrote a grant called Leveling the Playing Field, and Fiesta Bowl Charities gave us $20,000 to buy some very sophisticated musical instruments where just the mere movement of the hand would create a sound. And we have other lots of equipment to work with. And
Okay, so these are a few students that failed English the first year. Now they're taking it again the second year and working with these students. And they were told at the beginning this is what they're going to be doing. Okay.
So this is from one of our students, Antonio writes, I never liked working with anyone before, but when I started working with my buddy, everything changed. He made me see the good in working with others and getting to know other people. He is great.
Samantha writes, my favorite day of the week would be Tuesday because I knew I was going to work with the students. There were times we would all sit down and just talk about how we were feeling and tell each other about our families and our lives. I usually see the girls around school and hug them and tell them I can't wait till we work together again.
Richard writes, I learned a lot about myself and others alike. I know how to find a way to communicate with someone and also make friends with someone who is different from myself. This collaboration has helped me view the world in a new perspective. One of the things I learned is that not every person with a disability is the same.
Julian writes, I have come to the realization that I haven't been as open as I could and should have been to people with disabilities, and that I should be more caring about their struggles and difficulties in life.
James writes, I learned a lot about my buddy and even more about myself by getting to know him. I learned that I have way more patience than I thought I did, and it has helped me a lot with my life and other obstacles that I have had.
Nathan writes, to begin with, I was a bit nervous and uneasy about the whole Library Buddies thing, mainly due to the fact that I didn't understand them, or I felt uncomfortable with kids who have special needs. But my library buddy was just like any other kid. As I learned new things about my friend, I also learned a few things about me. I learned to be more confident and to appreciate the little things in life. Don't be afraid to say what you think or feel. And making new friends isn't always a bad thing. It's something people should do more of.
Brianna writes, I get out of my comfort zone from these kids, and I don't do that a lot for anyone. So I am saying these kids have a special place in my heart.
Nita, I learned a lot more than I first thought I would coming into this class. Learning things more valuable than what you would take away from any other old freshman class. Working with my library buddy taught me patience, acceptance of diversity, and most important to me is that energy speaks volumes. I witnessed a lot of growth in others and myself.
So, those are just a few of, we had them write papers and we just pulled the nuggets out of there. We thought those were really great. I wanted to introduce Crystal Rodriguez. She started off last year as a freshman repeat English student. She's a senior. She started that as a junior. And she was actually Tadeo's buddy in Library Buddies. And we just loved Crystal so much. She was such a help to us all last year. And then she came back this year when we started the parallel learning program to be a parallel learner. And so Crystal is a parallel learner for Tadeo in band. So this is Crystal Rodriguez. She's a senior. She's graduating this year. So now Barb's going to talk about parallel learning. I know that I said 10 minutes, didn't I?
Okay, well, then I only have 30 seconds. No. Parallel learning is mixing gen ed students with life skills students, sometimes one-on-one. So if they go into a regular classroom or a classroom that they're extending, doing some other work, such as an art class or a PE class, etc., they have a parallel learner that's going to be there by their side, directing them and supporting them. Not doing the work for them, but helping them figure out things and taking the initiative so they build confidence. They also have a parallel learner could work in a life skills class. So last semester, for example, we started with 45 students that went through the whole day, first through sixth period, going into classes or working one-on-one with students. And then this semester, it bumped up to 53 students for parallel learners, and then 16 of those go one-on-one to, what, you have, Tadeo has a biology.
Third period, yeah.
Tadeo has a parallel learner for biology, has a parallel learner for English, etc. So he has his day with a one-on-one to give the support needed. We found out that I thought, how am I going to begin to, make sure everybody is in their places, etc. I'm finding that these students, the attendance rate is there because they know they're needed. They bonded. In fact, you heard a student say, she overheard a
Yeah, I
conversation.
think Kelly heard it. A student that was saying her friends were encouraging her to ditch, and she said, "I can't because I have parallel learning next period, and they need me."
Right.
They would miss me if I wasn't there.
And they see that, and I think that's a strong connection because we're trying to, as we said, build an all-inclusive community. And when you get a gen ed student working and they bond beautifully, yeah, and then they learn about each other, and it really is a beautiful experience. It's enriched my life and the lives of so many. I want to let Wendy add a few, Wendy is our psychologist, to add a few other things about parallel learning.
So as a school psychologist at Sunnyside High School, I have to say that this has totally overhauled our whole system. And it's in a good way because it's encouraging us to get students out into different classrooms, into different settings, into different opportunities, getting students connected together, working alongside each other and learning how to support and work along together. And I see the benefits both for the students who are parallel learners and for the students who have a disability, who are in life skills. I have never seen so many students out of their self-contained setting as I do now, and it's wonderful. It's great, and we do have some challenges moving forward because as we move more students out, we have to think about the kind of supports that they need from adults, the ones that we're getting paid to support them, and what does that look like? And it might look different. So, and we're thinking about those concepts and we're moving forward. But I just wanted to say that I'm really encouraged that these students have the opportunities to work together, both the parallel learners and students with disabilities. It's a wonderful thing. Yep.
And we can't leave Eric out of the picture. Part of our team, and he has been a super person, putting schedules together and working through the process of, wait, if we put this person here, we have to make sure we have these many minutes here, et cetera. It's a very interesting, intricate process, but Eric has been just super, and we're amazed at his speed of his ability to speak Spanish at an enormous rate of speed. You're just like, wow.
We really couldn't do it without Eric, and so Eric's gonna close us off tonight, so you have last words.
Right, so as you guys can see, it takes a village to raise a kid, and you guys know more than that, know more about that than me. This is my 3rd year as a counselor, and my little girl is 3 years old, which is, I want to acknowledge at the back, along with my significant other, my partner, more than a partner. But I didn't understand, you hear all the time, it's like it takes a village to raise a child or a kid. But now I understand it, and as you can see, it takes, Ms. McDonald, the teacher, the librarian, Ms. Kate, the psychologist, students, parents, you as a board. So moving forward, we do look forward to working with the board, with our admin team present, district as well, in moving these programs forward. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you're gonna have questions.
Okay. Actually, we have some questions from the board.
Question,
Hernandez.
comment. So question, is this also available at Desert View? Because this is just at Sunnyside, right?
They have a program that they started, and in a sense, yes, but we have developed our own
Okay.
and growing it a little bit differently. We're possibly working in a career path in teaching that could be utilized, but right now, we are, it's a different.
They don't have a Best Buddies club. Whenever we started it, Best Buddies, because the Arizona office is in Phoenix, they didn't, once they started our club, because we have to pay dues to them and everything, they wouldn't allow any other schools to open because they didn't have the support for them, and that really showed in our experience because Kelly didn't really have very much support because all the stuff was happening in Phoenix, like the Best Buddies proms in Phoenix and the walk, and it's expensive to kind of get her there all the time, and so they were really reluctant, and we kept saying we need these other schools to, because we would love it if 10 of our high schools in Tucson had it. So we've been given the go-ahead now to start recruiting out to both middle school and high school. So we're hoping that next year Desert View will have a Best Buddies high school club, at least as an after-school club. As for the other stuff, it's just sort of, they don't have a Kate Street in the library, and they don't, so. It's we all have our own passions that we bring to our schools, and we all just do what we can, and so this is it's kind of grown out of our.
And I think it's like, as I asked our superintendent if I could do it. I said, my goal was, I love working with Kate, so I just said briefly, I said, what can I do to work with Kate and work on library buddies and do parallel learners? So I presented it, and so.
And we did hear about parallel learners from our friend Deja. She's a Best Buddies sponsor in Phoenix, and she has a parallel learning program. And so we all went as a team to visit that school in Campo Verde, I think. And it was their campus is incredible. I mean, the amount of inclusion there is unbelievable. And we wanted a program like that too. So then we asked Steve to help us out, and of course, he did. So that's wonderful. Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay, just a quick comment. So Kate, Wendy, and Miss McDonald, so you probably don't remember this, but so Miss McDonald is a former teacher of mine. And she actually is always taking on programs, and she took on a program when I was a student, and it changed the course of my path. So thank you, but you probably don't realize how much you're changing the paths of the students and the lives of your students through this program, and so is everyone else who's taking part in this program. So thank everyone, because it does take a lot of effort, and you are all pushing so hard for this, and I know it takes a lot of time, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Amil?
Thank you. What I think is unique that there's 45 students participating as an elective class.
Yeah.
That in itself says a lot for those kids that are taking this class. So, yeah, that's totally awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's
thank you.
not getting around where it's like.
Oh, yeah, more keep wanting to add every day, so.
Ms. Quintero?
Oh, Eric's going to be busy then, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
so, and so thank you for the program because, when I was working with self-contained, I did worry about the kids going off to middle school and high school. So this is great to hear that it's evolving into something awesome. Thank
It
you.
is taking, thank you. It is taking a little work to get like everyone that's used to that environment
Right.
getting comfortable. So it is taking some it's gonna be okay,
We've learned a lot of lessons and
Yeah.
made some mistakes along the way.
And I understand.
Jumped the gun a little bit, sometimes.
Yeah, I
but-
totally get it
yeah.
because that's where I was, for most of my time at Sunnyside. So, as a teacher, not as a student. So it is a little tough, but I think everyone's starting to warm up. It's just been a little bit.
I would like to say how awesome it is, the innovation and the initiative that you've all taken, and to bring Sunnyside to a new high in a different area. So it's fantastic.
It's a pleasure to work in, and it always has been,
Yeah.
in this district because they support a program or a creative endeavor. They go for it, and if it fails, well, we'll look at something else. But if it doesn't, then there's more support, and I can't thank Dr. Holmes and the rest who support us in these
Yeah.
endeavors.
Mr. Holmes, did you have a comment?
I do have to make a comment and just an observation because a couple things are happening that weren't captured here. And so on just the larger scale, it's the positivity of seeing Tadeo here and seeing the inclusive environment that's created. On a more sober note, however, it's also exposed some of the institutional flaws around what we do to kids in our institution over time. And Dr. Williams, if you can just join us real quick, if you don't mind, because I want to highlight kind of some of the work and what you're trying to attack, because through this experience, we're also learning that we have many students that go through our system who cognitively are functioning at a much higher level than we assume, or that we've systemically have created lower expectations for by the way in which we do school for our exceptional education folks. And so I can't emphasize enough the work that Dr. Williams is doing with his team and the work of Kelly, Barb, Kate, Wendy. It's because for me, it's not just what we present to the board, it's the things you're doing institutionally to change our mindsets and the work around students with disabilities and potentially changing how we label, how we provide support. So there's more than just the social affect that I think is really important that we're highlighting today. It's also the academic shifts that we're trying to make around what it means to be labeled in our district and how we provide the right amount of supports and not making assumptions around students just because of what they look or the potential disabilities. And Tadeo's just a proof point for us in this work as a one of many that we'll discover who's cognitive functioning at a standard level. And I'm not sure systemically we've treated them that way. And so I apologize for that because I think systemically we have to. But I have to say thank you for the family for trusting us. Los padres de familias de Tadeo, le quiero dar las gracias por estar aquí esta noche y tener la confianza en nosotros para poder hacer más cosas por su hijo, porque hemos aprendido mucho de él, como él aprendió con nosotros, pero para nosotros nos ha cambiado cómo vemos el sistema de nosotros para poder servirlo con mucho más, no nomás amor, pero también con los servicios que se merece también. So I just want to again thanking the parents for allowing us to use both an example to help us learn from him. As we're providing much love and support, we're learning a lot from that experience that I hopefully shifts systemically. And so I just want to acknowledge the team for a deeper commitment to this work, and many more presentations around the great stories that we can create and the long-term impact of women that are here before you, making a big difference every day. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. All right. Are we done?
Thank you.
We're good?
Next under general functions is high school academies and pathways. Ana Gallegos, Jose Castellum, and NJ Utter.
Good evening, President Crouch, board members, Mr. Holmes. So I have two wonderful people here who will present to you information regarding our high school, college, and career academies. Mr. Jose Gastelum, Director of Secondary Schools and Athletics, and Ms. NJ Utter, Director of CTE.
The right one there, Oh, okay. All right. President Crouch, Superintendent Holmes, members of the governing board, members of the audience, thanks for allowing us to give you an update here on college and career academies, and really the focus on next steps as we move into finishing this year and move into next year. Definitely want to give kudos to the team that just presented. That's a tough act to follow. We were hoping we were first, but didn't quite work out that way. But we're going to do our best here. Before we get into the presentation, I definitely want to introduce. Should be able to do that now. Okay. There you go. Okay.
Center and then use zero.
All right, we'll figure it out here. Work with me. So I definitely want to introduce the team. Joining me tonight is Mrs. NJ Utter, our Director of College and Technical Education, our high school principals, Principal of Desert Ms. Rosemary Rosas, and also Mr. Ricky Torres, Principal of Sunnyside High School. So if you have any questions there, they'll be happy to answer those as well. As you know, Mr. Holmes has rolled out the vision for the district and vision for the graduate profile. You know, there's definitely a lot that high school design supports according to the vision of every child, college and career and community ready. So we're well aware that college and career starts at the lower levels, right? It starts at the elementary level, but you know, at the high school, we're definitely trying to give our students that experience, that high school experience, that as they move on to post-secondary education or other endeavors they may have, that they've had those opportunities and experience and feel prepared to move on. So before we get into the new focus, and I don't know why this thing is not centering, there we go. The current academy's structure, you know, we started a few years ago, and those were built around some of the programs that were successful at the time, you know. So we didn't go and try to implement new programs at the time. We said, what are we doing well? And in terms of CTE, in terms of electives, and let's build our academies around those. So at Desert View, you have your Visual and Performing Arts Academy, you have your iSTEM Academy, and we also have the Cash Academy, you know. And then at Sunnyside, we have our Law Academy, our Best Academy, and our Medical and Allied Health Academies. And this next slide really just puts it all together, and also want to point out that the academies do start at the freshman level with Freshman Academy. I mean, I think there's still individuals out there that believe Freshman Academy doesn't exist, and it does exist. You know, it's obviously, we want to give our kids a foundation as they start high school and transition from middle school, and then give them information as they transition and make a choice of what academy they're going to venture into. So, you know, our mission is to develop students with a strong sense of identity, purpose, and agency, so that they leave our system as effective learners who act with purpose to achieve the conditions they desire in their own and others' lives. So how do we honor each student's identity and development within our academy system? You know, we definitely, as I mentioned earlier, think of the high school experience. And over the last couple of years, we're definitely trying to get this Career Academy thing right. You know, we're trying to get in the right direction and do right by students. You'll hear the key term traditional pathway here later in the presentation, and that's what we started with. You know, we started where students were choosing academy, but what we've learned through the work and the emphasis of honoring each student's identity and development, and through conversations with students, is that we needed a more prescribed approach. We needed, more than ever, we have to have more conversations with students about what their end goal is. You know, what's their end goal? And then that way we can help them make a decision on the career, on the correct pathway that will best suit them. So with that, we have developed 3 different pathways here that, you know, we're going to definitely attempt to give you a better understanding of these pathways and how students choose these pathways. So they'll fall into one of these 3 pathways, and these pathways are early college pathways, traditional pathways, and guided pathways. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Utter as she'll explain those to you.
Arrowing, what do you do?
I'm just scrolling.
All right. And I think just one clarifying point is that it's not like the student necessarily needs to say, I'm an early college pathway student. What we're finding is, we had some feedback from students from our own messaging that sometimes they felt like if they didn't fit neatly into one of the categories of the academies, that they were feeling like adults were trying to make them fit. So it's more the language around what we're talking about with adults, again, with the emphasis on identity, purpose, and developing agency. So we know we have some students who find what they want to do, love what they want to do, and are in a situation where they can actually get quite a bit of early college work done as well. So we're defining early college pathways as pathways that align with post-secondary programs and provide substantial amounts of dual credit. Thank you to the governing board. I know you've mentioned dual credit several times out from the dais, and we wanted to provide a little more information for you. So clarifying that, dual credit classes allow students to earn both high school and college credit at the same time. Our dual credit partner is Pima Community College. They're actually the only community college in the state that provides the dual credit opportunity for free for our students. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for them. However, our instructors in those dual credit classes have to meet the same criteria, the same qualifications as a Pima Community College faculty member. So there's a process that we have to go through when any teacher, with any teacher when we're trying to offer dual credit. So right now in place we have 2 early college pathways. At Desert View, we have the Machine Tool Technology program. All of you have been there at one time or another, our manufacturing program. So right now at Desert View, a student can earn 21 of 29 required credits with Pima Community College to earn their CNC operator license. So they can't quite finish it, but with a little bit of summer work, they have that operator certificate in their hands from Pima. That group of credits, combined with some math courses, actually can transfer as a block for a student to earn an Associate's of Applied Science. So at Desert View next year, with our addition of dual credits, they could earn 25 of 32 first-year recommended credits at Pima before they leave us for free. And then something I was surprised to learn, because you know, there's always this what's occupational, what can be transferred to a 4-year institute. And I'm learning more and more what we've always believed, which is college and career are much more alike than they are different for our students. So that entire associate's degree actually transfers to the U of A, or to NAU. They're working on a transfer program with the U of A, where that associate's degree leads at NAU to a bachelor's in applied technology. So again, our students could have almost the whole first year done before they leave us, shortening the amount of time they'd have to spend in school and the amount of money that they have to spend. So I know you're quite familiar with that program. I don't know if you're as familiar with the Law and Public Safety program at Sunnyside High School. So right now, students can earn 22 of 29 first-year credits towards an Associate of Arts in Administration of Justice. That's a completely transferable degree to any 4-year school in the state of Arizona or elsewhere. At Pima, they recommend that you take world language in your second year, But many of our students actually do very, very well on the advanced placement exam in either Spanish Lit or Spanish language. So our students could get an additional 8 credits or more of world language through the AP testing, so they would have 30. They'd have essentially really their whole first year done. And all of those credits are applicable to any sort of Arizona General Equivalency core in arts, transferable to a 4-year degree. So thank you to Mr. Mercado and our media department who've put together these flyers that we provided copies to you for. So we're letting the community know these opportunities that are out there. But many of our students aren't interested in those too. And our hope is to continue to develop more early college pathways as we work closely with Pima Community College. So we still offer, next slide. So one other thing on either of those two, it's not only CTE credits. So thank you, Ms. Hackett, who's worked with our math teachers. We're introducing some dual enrollment courses in math because the kind of math you need is different depending upon what you want to do with it. So next year on our dual enrollment course list, we're offering topics in mathematics, which is the recommended math course for students who are going into administrative justice, but also for anybody looking at some sort of social science degree. Education as an English teacher, perhaps. College algebra, which is recommended for degrees in business, and our general technical math, which is the required course for programs like automotive and manufacturing. But we still have our traditional CTE pathways that Mr. Gastelum mentioned. So students, we believe CTE is very good for students. So a student who takes a traditional pathway has identified a pathway which helps define their career development and or a future goal. So a student who is following a traditional CTE path is probably going to complete a CTE course sequence. They're going to earn any college credit that is available. They're going to provide, have opportunities for work experience with our industry partners, earn industry certifications, and complete the related coursework in the academy or in other core courses that goes with what they want to do when they graduate from high school. And just to answer perhaps an unasked question, right now we have 9 CTE areas that are dual credit with Pima Community College. I'm pretty confident that we'll be adding 5 more next year because those teachers are already in the process and we've talked with Pima. And then we're opening the door for others. Ed Professions is one that has come up that I believe we can do, but of course we don't have the teacher hired for that program yet, so we'll be looking at that as well. And then finally, we find that our students, that we have students who are in what we're now calling guided pathways. They don't really fit any of those niches, and that's what we heard from students and from counselors and teachers sometimes. And I chose this picture in particular because you look at this picture and begin to think, what course is that? Well, it isn't construction, that's actually technical theater, it's stagecraft. So a guided pathway is for students who are in the process still, they're continuing their decision-making process. But we as an institution are supporting that decision-making through career application experiences. So they're not just going, I'm not sure what I want to do. They're taking coursework to find out, I really do like this, or perhaps this is not something that I really like, which is valuable as well. So our guided pathway students, again, are making that career exploration decision by taking a CTE course. They may cross academies as enrollment allows. They may change academies, and there's always been an academy change process, but I'm not sure that our students, we communicated that very well to students. And we hope, our goal is that they will develop a better sense of purpose, remember, back to identity, purpose, through that career application experience. Which leads me back to my colleague, who's going to talk about some of the important messaging that we're giving to our students.
All right, so career exploration decisions. So when students select an academy for their high school experience, they and their parents should understand that they're not making a career exploration, they are making a career exploration decision and not a career decision. So many times our students choose an academy, they think they're stuck in that academy, but we very much, through conversations, give them choice, and as Ms. Utter pointed out, those that are in the guided pathways will bounce around from academy to academy depending on what their end goal is. It also reminds me of when we entered college and we had to choose a major, right? Many students changed their majors throughout the years, and you know, the advantages of our career academies and earning dual credit, obviously, is that they're not too deep when they have to make a change, or when they decide to make a change, because now it involves definitely money and paying for classes. So the college career equation now is honestly, we want to get our students thinking of developing a career interest, you know, and that's done through, oh, I'm sorry. That's done through, you know, identifying a high school plan that results in a post-secondary plan. So our hope is that it leads to direct employment, certification, associate's degree, and even a bachelor's degree, entering that first career path, and then they get the opportunity to keep navigating. So as our students transition from freshman academy to 10th grade and choosing an academy, you know, we want to make sure that we're exposing them to all the different opportunities and all the different experiences the pathways may offer. So they do an education and career action plan, which each student is required to have one, and make it purposeful. Also, we've used U Science, and you'll see in the next slide I'll explain what U Science is. Also, the use of CC Prep, making the best time of that for decision making and exposing them to the different colleges and the admission requirements and what programs colleges have to offer. And then exposure to the academies, which is probably one of the most important pieces, including the CTE showcase. So before they choose an academy, our freshmen do a tour of the campus and the CTE programs at their respective high schools. This is a tool that's new to us that we started using, and it includes a career interest and aptitudes for personalized reports. Aptitudes are based on a series of 5 to 8 minute brain games, and all reports are designed to emphasize the students' strengths and expand their visions for opportunity. So this definitely gives students that confidence. It gives them feedback and what their strengths are before they make a decision. So as we move on to course selections, you know, and that's what ninth graders are doing at this time and at the end of January and early February, is, again, counselors are going into classrooms and they're really having conversations, one-on-one conversations with students about and giving them a voice in what their pathway is going to be. So all rising 10th graders will have to select an academy. After 10th grade, students will be encouraged to complete a pathway. Obviously, we want them to take advantage of a full sequence, right, where they do get the opportunity to earn dual credit, industry certification, and work experience. And then we're well aware that not all electives fall into a specific pathway. We still have our global electives, which are also important courses to many of our students. For example, the music courses, world language courses, and some of those that we offer that our students definitely are engaged in. So returning to our vision, you know, we definitely want students to have a well-rounded high school experience where all students will graduate with a post-secondary plan that may be evidenced by college credit, industry certification, and work experience. We definitely want them to have an idea of what they want to do as they go on to accomplish their goals. You know, I do want to point out that since the implementation of career academies, I think it's not ironic that our graduation rates have also climbed, you know, and respectively at 87% and 84% at our comprehensive high schools. I do believe that there's this piece of school connectedness, and now it's through courses, where many of the school connected pieces in the past were through athletics, through activities. So this has opened up a whole new door, and many students have found a place on campus that they call home, right? That they feel comfortable, and you know, we see the evidence every day as we visit our high schools, and many of these programs go beyond the school day, beyond the, you know, so after school, you see our machining students working in the shop. You see our automotive students working in the shop, you know, and so it's definitely created this piece of school connectedness, and I don't think it's by accident that our graduation rates have climbed. You know, being a former high school principal myself, I mean, we were once at 70%, and now we're we're getting close to those 90s, and you know, that's the goal. And one of our other goals is definitely to see our students move on with the plan and bridge that gap as they move on to their post-secondary endeavors or careers. So, questions?
But I have a comment, first of all. This is kind of the vision I had years ago when we first started doing the academies, that it would be wall-to-wall, essentially. All students would have the opportunity to participate. I would like to see us do something at the middle school level to kind of a sample course, or get the students excited at middle school so they know which high school they want to go to. And they choose Sunnyside District, you know, it's as a rule. But, you know, I would like to expand it
So we
down to
just,
middle schools.
Funny you mentioned that. We just, a couple weeks ago, had 8th grade visitations, and it was focused around the CTE pathways. We did some front loading in terms of, you know, we want to obviously thank the team and the group of teachers that led this work, and we did some surveys at the middle school level where they had to answer questions around some of their interests in the academy. So we did a little inventory, so we knew we didn't want to waste their time either. You know, when the 8th graders visit, it was focused on what their interest was, and that just occurred a couple weeks ago, where we had every middle school visit the high schools through feeder patterns, and obviously Gallego intermediate students, they got to, some of them got to go to both high schools. So that did take place. The other piece is, I know we're trying to implement some CTE foundational courses, career exploration at the middle school level for next year. So I know some middle schools are interested in implementing those.
Mr. Hernandez has a question.
I have two questions. One, in the slide before this one, it says that they graduate with work experience. Can you define what exactly we do to prepare the students with work experience?
So at this point, there's a variety of different ways that some of our students can earn work experience. A few of them, areas off the top of my head, like auto technology, auto collision, manufacturing, actually are participating with partners in paid internships. Some of our CTE programs offer school-based enterprises. There's a student store that's run by sales and marketing at Sunnyside, business management or business operations at Desert View, so they do all the inventory. Our sports medicine teachers actually have students who have finished the sequence and they're in their 3rd year, so they work with them. They cover the games. They work after school, wrapping and icing and doing all of that work as well. So that would be your school-based opportunities. We have some job shadowing, not a lot of job shadowing right now. So I would say also this is something we continue to develop. Certain areas have more industry partnerships. Some areas are harder. ROTC, I mean, the 4th-year students run the flights. I mean, they do all of the work, which I know Major McComber is looking at as being a similar work-based, school-based experience. Maybe you can talk to that as well.
And not only that, if an ROTC cadet completes the program and decides to enlist in
Yep.
the military,
Good point.
they go in as a E3 versus an E1, which equates to about $250 more a month as far as pay goes, and leadership when they join the military, if they decide.
So that's like an industry certification as well, where they make more money because they have that.
They do have to have a letter
certificate.
from the instructor that they are completers, and they give a certificate, and they have to take it to the recruiter in order to
It's a big
receive
deal.
that promotion, yeah. And that's a big one.
It is a big deal, yeah.
I'd like to see, something that I'm
Please.
really passionate about is making sure that our students have something on their resume once they leave. So if there's some sort of list that you can send us or send me of any of our programs that don't have any either job shadowing or internship, and I'll make sure to work on that to see if we can get connected with that. And then the second question, how are we reaching parents before the 10th grade to make sure that they're aware of the opportunities that are available before making that decision?
tell you just a few weeks ago, along with the 8th grade visitations, is we had parent nights. So actually both high schools had parent nights where we invited our 8th grade families to come and hear exactly what our high schools have to offer. And I know there's a little competition, but
Who offers more?
But it's friendly. It's friendly, and again, it's all about Sunnyside kids and attracting all of them to come here because the amazing opportunities that just exist here that I wish existed when I was in high school.
Right.
And many other high schools should take a look at what Sunnyside is doing because we may have wonderful slogans, but a slogan is just a slogan. If we don't have people like us driving it
Right.
And bringing it home to our families, it doesn't make any sense. So that's one of the things I love is, yes, we have awesome slogans with great sayings, but they only exist because we actually make it happen.
So we had, approximately 2.5 weeks ago, we had a parent night for our incoming and our 9th to 10th grade parents. And what we did is in the auditorium, we had, first it was like a Q&A, a panel, and then we went over to the library where we had our academy set up. And thank you, board members, for being there. And we had a tour, so our parents got to go into some of the actual academies, the Precision Manufacturing Building. They got to talk with some of the kids that are in the programs. And one thing that was really wonderful is in our film and production program, one of our students went around interviewing the families as they were there. And so when they got back from their tours and talking with students and getting information, they sat in the auditorium and we played their video live. And the parents were, oh, those students made that while we were here? My son can do that? They were so excited about the amazing things that can happen in high school now versus when they were kids there. So we're really trying to do a lot of outreach. The other thing, thanks to Mr. Holmes and our relationship with the Tohono O'odham Nation, last week we had a parent meeting there. And so we're looking forward to having those meetings again once a month. We're going to do a mobile office there. Desert View and Challenger are going to be there for parent meetings once a month. So we're really working hard to try to find avenues to gain more parent support, encourage parents to come into our schools, and make sure that parents know that we're there for them. So that was a successful night 2.5 weeks ago.
And do we send any sort of notices either through email or literature home before decisions are made, either summer or I'm not sure when is the decision made?
Actually,
is it mid-year? Or
now. So right now
Okay.
they're beginning to course select, and that's why we had that meeting. We really wanted parents informed, especially those that are just coming in and the 9th graders who are just going into an academy itself. So they're actually scheduling Friday as their last day.
Oh, no. So my question is,
Beforehand,
before
parents,
that, do you send?
Yeah.
What do you send? What sort of communication do you use? Do you send emails or do you send like robocalls? What do you use? What sort of
So we use
communication?
Bright Arrow. So we use Bright Arrow, and what we did is we have a monthly magazine, if you will. It's a newsletter, but it's lengthy, so I call it a little mini magazine. And so we sent that out, and in that, that goes to all the parents via email, and it had all of the links of when registration was happening and what were our academies. Talk to your child about what kind of courses they can take at school. And then Ms. Otter has been really fantastic in giving us some of those pamphlets and brochures. So we have those for students to take home to parents as well. So we use Bright Arrow mostly to communicate.
Yeah, go ahead.
One last thing.
You may go ahead.
This morning I had the cafecito with the principal. So at that moment I got an opportunity to speak to our Spanish-speaking families about the academies and all that good stuff. And so once a month they are more than welcome to come and listen to the wonderful things that we're doing there. And we're always inviting the families to come and support us and come and see the great things we're doing.
And last of all, Mr. Mercado had the invitations to the Academy Nights out on social media, so it was on Twitter, it was on our district website, it was on Facebook. It's still a great question because we don't get the turnout we need. And I believe at both schools, parents get a list of the course requests that we ask them to sign off on and send back. The return rate is not 100%, and we have to move forward with that. So It is a great question, and we are trying to come up with everything that we can think of to make sure
I
that
was
the
just
parents are
gonna-
aware. Were you gonna
Yeah,
say
no,
that
I
too?
was just gonna add that through our debriefings, after we had the eighth graders visit, we met and debriefed, and we talked about what we need to do better, to get more parents involved and get more students engaged in the decision-making. And one of the things that we thought we need to do is do these eighth grade visits in the fall, not January, more like October, November,
Right.
so they can start, because
They have to
families
think
start
about
making
it.
decisions
Right.
about high school early on, and we want to make sure we keep our kids here in the district, so that's
Right.
that's a big one, so.
Thank you.
Just wanted to point that out as well.
Mr. Holmes?
Just want to address a couple items and kind of highlight kind of how we got here. Just quickly, one of the things that I don't want to lose sight of is this idea of agency that we continue to work with our students on. Part of our challenge has continued and is twofold. One is, once we get to high school, parental involvement drops significantly. That's just not a phenomenon to us, but just in general, which is continue to be a challenge for us. So that's something I think we need to continue to push and figure out. Two, though, I think we also are in a community where parents entrust us in decision-making, and so that plays also in this kind of somewhat of a perplexing quandary that we're faced with, right? How do we continue to communicate and get involvement, and our parents so untrustworthy of us that also presents the unique challenge that are part of our community and part of the messaging, which gets at kind of why this concept of agency is important, because many of us also had enough kind of agency built up by that time that we were making some really good decisions that were empowered by our parents from. So those are all those phenomenons that we're kind of trying to figure out how we make sure systemically, though, that we acknowledge, but we're also chasing information to make sure it's getting in there. And the reason I wanted to pivot to a little bit quickly to agency is that one of the things that you've heard me talk a lot about, and one of the things that I still honor and I feel is part of my decision making, is student voice. And so my favorite meeting is our student advisory group that we meet with every month. I love it. A lot of the adults hate it. And I'll say that really with a lot of respect for why a lot of adults hate it, is because when things get said, a lot of times it's one student's perspective that I still take back, and unfortunately people don't like to hear the potential trends that are right. It's the people get defensive around, well, no, that doesn't happen in our schools, or that was just one situation. But it's the reality of being cognizant that we got to bring those voices to the table. And case in point, when we're working on this next iteration to present to the governing board, the vision really, as part of the work in Nashville that a couple of you went with, the wall to wall, was really specifically geared towards every single student leaving with the industry certification, every single one graduating. As we rolled out our graduate profile and our new mission statement with identity, purpose, and agency being at the center, and the conversation we're having with students, it became clearer to me that that's probably not the right move for our community. In other words, and let me make sure I'm real clear, creating a system that meets the needs of all students was really where I came back to. In other words, there are students that have a particular affinity to a career that's going to cross them into two pathways. And I wanted to make sure we're honoring that. That's kind of how this term, the guided pathway, came about. It's not like a freelance and go take any course. It's really guiding students to those particular pathways that are going to meet where their interests are, so they continue to remain engaged with us, thus not only graduating, continuing a post-secondary experience, which still eludes us as a district. I got to be real clear. Our graduation rates are super great. Our post-secondary enrollment is horrible. And that's where we can certainly say good things, but how do we get to the place where we need to be? And I say horrible because I want to push the team a little bit and be provocative, but get them going on that. But I mean, but reality is we're sitting at a place where it's certainly not good enough. And so as if this work is really that pivotal work to that, and I believe it is, then we got to do a better job of making sure that experience for our students really is a very nice handoff, and it's not what we think the students need, but it was something that the students also feel they need. So the big difference for me in the Nashville experience is Nashville is also a big major urban district, and so they've got enough variability within schools to have unique experiences. Because we only have 2 comprehensive high schools, we have to almost meet all the needs. So this was a way to get at early college, making sure that continues to be a growing pathway, traditional pathways, which is the industry cert, but honoring those students that really want that blended experience, who really have an affinity. They want to be in business and in construction because they want to be able to, maybe their family's ready and they want to leverage that. So I just want to be real clear on the distinction and how we came about that, because those of you that experienced that, I think this is a little bit more unique in how we designed it, but I still think meets an intent of wall to wall, which is every kid is tied to some experience that's going to really lead to a post-secondary pathway. I hope that's clear. Just want to kind of, yeah.
Ms. Quintero?
I almost forgot what I was going to ask.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that was good. So the film that the kids made with the parents, can we see that, like, posted on our website so that we can see it?
Yeah, we should.
Everybody can see it, and the parents can see themselves on TV, or on the computer.
Yeah, and it was wonderful because the responses were about the academies and what they were surprised to see. They didn't know we had that in the high school. So it's interesting. Sometimes we fail to market ourselves enough to the community, even though we feel like we're saying we have this and we have that. There are a large amount of community members that aren't on social media, and so they don't hear it unless we're really going to the door. And so I definitely think we should do that, but I think in my mind, hearing those kind of things, that the parents were surprised kids could do that there, was surprising for me as a principal. And it made me kind of think, well, how am I getting the word out to what's going on in our school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A commercial on the big football games in the middle, halftime. Show the movie.
And we did also, they were very wise, I think. They tied those academy nights. First, they put them on separate nights. They did have parents go to both, some parents. And they also tied them on a night that there was basketball.
Basketball.
Nice.
So if they went to the game, they got a free ticket the family got a free ticket, so they boosted enrollment that way.
Nice.
So,
I have a question about, say a student wants to do 2 pathways, as Mr. Holmes was talking about. Say they want to do JROTC at Desert View and Auto Tech at Sunnyside. Is there any way for them to do that, or is that?
we have 6 Sunnyside students who are taking ROTC at Desert View right now. We have, I think, 2 Desert View students who are taking auto technology at Sunnyside right now. But I can give you the numbers. They're not really large.
Okay.
So
But we have the opportunity there for them.
Yes, and we are still having conversations as to whether we could make sure we schedule ones that students seem to be more interested in going for at strategic times of day and trying to provide transportation at least one way, so you could start your day at Desert View and then get a ride back to Sunnyside. So that's something we're continuing to look at.
Mr. Amil?
Thank you. No, I just want to commend both high schools for the program that they offer. I mean, you guys are doing a phenomenal job there. You know, one of the ones that wasn't mentioned was culinary arts, and those kids are doing an amazing job there at Desert View High School with Mr. Jewell. But what if I was a student and I chose a career decision, and it wasn't quite my fit? And I took it the first semester. I felt I wasn't doing quite well. I didn't want to. I was failing the class. I don't want to stay in it for the rest of the semester, second semester, because I didn't do so well. How hard is it for me to get out of that class?
So that's a really good question, and I don't have a perfect answer. Almost all of our courses at the high school level are year-long courses.
Yeah, but
So we spend quite a bit of time talking to our students about the fact that they're making a decision for a year. We run into issues in many classes where if a student comes in January, they don't have the background knowledge in order to be successful second semester.
right.
So there really isn't a universal, ROTC, I know, takes students at semesters. And that's wonderful, but I'm not sure that all of them do or can. So it really is a very individual discussion based on what the class the student is in and what class the student is requesting to go to.
Right. But are we going to penalize that student that really isn't the perfect fit for that one class that he or she chose? Are we going to penalize him or her by keeping him in that class and have him fail the whole semester, or allow that individual to possibly seek another career path?
I think those are the discussions that we're trying to have with students to make sure that they understand, and parents, as to what they're giving up or what they're gaining.
Yeah.
I will tell you, because I was actually, one question I didn't ask is I was looking at students who complete a CTE sequence, how many of them continue in that pathway? I have the 2017 data, it's actually 84%. We have a lot of students, believe it or not, who fail a semester in their first year in a program but want to continue, and they continue and do well. So sometimes a student may fail.
Yeah, but what about that student that doesn't want to stay in that program? Is he or she allowed to punch out?
Yeah, I mean, one of the other options would be.
Because I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, I've heard that they're not. And I really have a hard problem or issue with that, that if it's, why should we penalize that student the whole year? And now he's behind a whole credit. So if that student, he or she decides, you know what, this is not my fit, allow them that opportunity, at least maybe once, everybody, how many of us have had other jobs and decided it wasn't the right fit? Allow that individual to make that change. And he might realize that the other one was a better fit for him than the new one. And he or she might choose to go back to where he started. But not to allow that individual to be able to opt out of it, it's not right. I don't think it is.
And I think, one of the options, obviously we want to do right by our students, and we have to have the conversation. So if that's occurring, right, and through the conversations with students and what other academy do you want to choose, I think having that conversation with the instructor and saying, can this student get in second semester? Can they make up what they missed first semester? So,
and I understand that.
And if not,
see, because
then there's other electives where we're going to make sure global elective, right? They can take a French class, a Spanish class, a weight training class, and then they start the sequence over.
Sophomore year.
Right, sophomore year. The difficult thing is,
and I understand,
is we're pushing for students to complete the sequence, but more important is the experience.
Yeah, and I understand that, but did the student understand that? And the parent understand that as well? See, and that's where, do they have the understanding and say, well, you know what you're choosing, and you're going to have to stay there the whole year, so you have to make the right decision of what you want. And then what I'd like to see, I know that you have an awesome agriculture program there as well. I know that we talked about the Native community. They have an awesome co-op program there. And it would be nice if we could hook up with the nation to see if we can get some students out there, get some actual hands-on experience with the folks out there. And transportation is probably there already, and we can probably provide it for our Native kids. And then for the kids that want to actually take that career path, that would be awesome as well.
And then the internships are naturally built in.
Right there.
I loved that conversation you had with me. I think that's really a good way to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to explore.
For sure.
And we also mentioned that some of our students stay after school and work, right? I'd like to see if we can get a program like we had a few years ago, which we teamed up with Tucson Unified TYD, Tucson Youth Development, where the kids work 2 hours after. They don't need to have transportation to get to a job. It's already there for them, and if they're already doing the work, why not compensate them for doing that work and get a little cash in their pocket as well? I mean, it couldn't hurt. So I'd like to see if we can do something about that as well. Other than that, everybody's guys are doing well.
Mr. Hernandez?
Just 2 quick questions. Have you connected with U of A compost cats? Yeah? Okay. And
Yes, they've worked with our agriculture program, they've donated compost and working with their students and making some connections with the University of Arizona College of Agriculture as well.
And they also work with our iSTEM program, girls program at Desert View.
Okay. And then second question, for the academies, do we offer any either winter or summer courses to catch up for anyone who either might have changed their minds or fell behind? No.
But no, we don't. But we'd love if the board would find it in the budget to offer those. We would be more than happy to host them. I would love to have that. Definitely, that's what it is. And so we would love to have some of those programs for sure.
That was well said. We have one public service announcement.
Oh, we just received the results from the soccer game. Sunnyside is advancing. We won 3-0. And Desert View unfortunately lost to Independence 3-1.
No duel in the.
Yay and nay.
No duel in the
Darn.
Not this year.
Still in the office.
Well, congratulations to both teams.
Thank you.
They've done well.
Thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate your team here and Mr. Mercado for the brochure for the CT and JTED program. I think it's an outstanding brochure. It's easy to read, it's easy to understand, and I think it's just a great advertising piece. Anything else from the board?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Next item on the agenda is 2019-2020 E-rate application update and overview. Mr. Baca.
Didn't see that one. Like he needs me to drive this. Go ahead, now you
Good evening, members of the board, President, Superintendent Holmes, President Crouch, and members of the board. I will be brief. I thought I was going to be before the soccer game, and so I was going to be very brief. So, but that no longer motivated to. But I will still be brief, so you can get home early.
Thank you, Mr. Baca.
So the purpose of this presentation today is to give the board an overview of our intended applications for E-rate in the coming year. Every so often there's a new opportunity, and we want to keep the board fully aware of how we are strategically capitalizing on the E-rate funding mechanism in the most advantageous way possible every year. So just a brief history about the E-rate funding mechanism. It's a federal program that gives school districts like ours significant discounts on our telecommunication services. And in the past, we have received, and I put a summary in that memo, over the last 9 years, approximately $10.5 million of funding has come our way that went towards purchase services of approximately $13.5 million. So we got $13.5 million services for our cost to be a little over $3 million because the $10 million made up difference came from the E-rate program. So it's a very significant program, and we want to capitalize on it when it's available because it's not guaranteed to be available every year. In 2014, they released a modernization order that prioritized building out Wi-Fi networks. And we capitalized on that money, and we are fortunate to have completed our 2 rounds of upgrades as a result of that modernization order. We started at the secondary level of our high schools about 3 years ago. We completed those network upgrades. This year, we are in the process of completing our elementary schools, and we will be done with that by about end of spring break. And what that's doing is that's replacing all of our core network infrastructure with equipment that is no longer near end of life, near becoming obsolete. It's going to give us a lot of breathing room for the future. It's going to give us significant bandwidth upgrades at our core networks so that we can continue to grow and expand and accommodate and meet the needs of the district as they are and as they potentially will become. So that was another positive result of participating in the E-rate program. So here we are considering next year's application. There are two categories of services. The first category one is the typical telecommunication services, our internet access. Used to be able to fund phone services, but that's no longer eligible. And what we call wide area network services, and that's the links between all of our school sites and our aggregation hub, which is the central office. So everything from the schools comes to here, goes back out to the schools, and then goes to the internet from here. That's our network aggregation hub. The wide area network services are category one as well as the internet access, and so that's funded at 90% discount for our level of free and reduced. So we are just asking for your approval to continue year 4 of 5 of a contract that we awarded 4 years ago. And it would we get 90% discounts on those services, so it's very advantageous. So for about $400,000 of services, net cost to us is about $40,000. So it's a very positive program there. An interesting opportunity is what the other piece that I wanted to make the board aware of is the state of Arizona has created a program. It's a matching funds program. So for other types of services, they are willing to match. So our funding is, in this case, 95% eligible for this potential program. The state will come in to match the remaining 5%, and so effectively it becomes a zero cost to the district. Now, the program that this is the services that are eligible for this program are to build out wide area network services for districts to continue into the future. So we currently have a 5-year contract for wide area network services, and we'll continue that contract and we'll complete that contract. However, once that contract is expired, it would be more advantageous to the district if we owned the service. So what's referred to as dark fiber or least lit fiber. Imagine, I'll just try to use this as an example. Within a school site, it's a small campus, you have multiple areas that are connected through fiber. And we don't pay for those connections because we own the equipment that carries the fiber, that carries the light and the network. Imagine if you just could expand that to all school sites. And so if we owned the fiber between this building and every school that we had, we no longer had to lease those services from a service provider. What the state matching program allows you to do is explore opportunities to construct that dark fiber network or least lit fiber network, and then ultimately get full funding for it, meaning zero cost. Now there will be some costs, some minor costs associated, but we're talking about potentially a multi-million-dollar project that would come to us by 95% discount from the federal government through E-rate, 5% matching funds from the state is zero cost to Sunnyside. So we wanted to make the governing board aware that this program may expire soon, so since it's still available, we're going to capitalize on it now with this year's application. We're asking for your approval to proceed with that. And we'll come back to you in probably early March once we've reviewed bids, the RFP, and a recommendation to say if this is going to be a feasible program. And so that's the overview in a nutshell. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have a question, Mr. Bucket. Is there any disaster recovery or contingency planning premium on that in terms of if we own the network itself, do we have any backup if something goes wrong with it?
It's an excellent question, because that is the benefit of leasing it right now like we do, is that we can hold a service provider responsible to meeting their obligations of a contract, of a service level agreement, and we can say, it doesn't matter to me that some construction company cut your fiber with their backhoe, you have a X hour window to get that repaired and spliced. And so if we own it, we don't necessarily have someone we can call up and demand that from. So what we typically do in that situation is, as part of the RFP, we wrote into a maintenance and repair contract. I don't know what the costs are going to come in at, but what I've seen from previous school districts who've gone a similar route, it's $1,500, $1,200 to $1,500 a month for, it's basically an insurance policy. That cost is still less than what we ultimately pay through E-rate, so there will be a cost, but we would certainly want to enter into that cost because we need to have the ability to repair our network within hours. So if we do go this route and purchase and build out our own dark fiber network or other similar type network, we would purchase a service and repair maintenance contract. And that's not E-rate eligible, that's just something that we would pay, but it's certainly worthwhile. It's ultimately much less expensive even than the E-rate funded leased services. So it's still an advantage to go that way.
Is there any opportunity to have an insurance policy to pair up with one of the other services if something happens that we can't repair it right away, or is that an option?
The insurance policy, I mean, I'm referring to that service contract is basically our insurance policy. We enter into a contract, and they are guaranteeing the ability to repair it within, 4 hours or 8 hours. I mean, we have a contractual obligation that they have to meet that. There are companies that this is their business, and it's pretty typical. So I think that if we go down that road, we'll certainly present you what that contract would look like. I'm kind of referring to it as an insurance policy because that's how I'm thinking about it. We're paying $1,200 a month to ensure that our fiber network will be repaired within a acceptable time frame.
Any other questions from the board?
I like free. I like free.
You like free?
I
like
free.
zero. Make that zero sound.
All right.
Should I make a motion?
Thank you.
Yes, since there are no other questions, Ms. Quintero?
So I'll make a motion to approve renewal of RFP number 16-18-21, the year 405, and the filing of E-rate application form 470, and associated RFP for funding year 2019-2020, E-rate year 2022, for the services presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Quintero.
Aye.
Ms. Hernandez.
Aye.
Mr. Alameda.
Aye.
Mr. Crouch.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Baca. Good presentation. Next on the agenda is suggestion for future agenda items. Does any board member have suggestions for future agenda items?
Not at the time.
This where,
Hmm?
Go ahead.
You have something?
You have
this
something?
where I could talk about, put on participatory budgeting.
Yeah, you could put it out there if you wanted to, or,
I mean, I'll talk about it later.
okay.
Yeah.
So, hearing none,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
roll call.
Ms. Quintero.
Aye.
Ms. Hernandez.
Aye.
Mr. Alameda.
Aye.
Mr. Crouch.
Aye, motion passes. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.
Robert? Did you get this? The memo for the paper intrusion? Radio break? Did you get this?
Okay, NJ, catch you before you take off. Put a bug in your ear.